Jan or Thomas, I think we're ready to go whenever you guys are.
Great.
Okay.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Okay. Let me share my screen here. Can you guys see that okay? Does that look about right? Is
Yes.
that right? Okay. There. All right. So thanks for joining us, everyone. We're excited to do our second round of community outreach and provide you a little bit of input about where the town is with regard to some of the planning and land use endeavors that we've kind of discussed since the new general plan in 2019. And we'll walk through that a little bit. But really tonight is hopefully an opportunity for us to convey some information to you. And then at the end of the meeting, we're hoping to engage in a significant amount of back and forth, some input, some dialogue, get your thoughts, get any of your questions that you may have. I've got a few slides here, actually a pretty good number of slides that walk through some of the planning, land use, development, zoning issues generally associated with town. So with that, I thought we'll get started, and don't hesitate to ask questions. We'll kind of save questions and answers, Q&A, for the end of the presentation. But if there is a question or something that comes up, maybe specific to a piece of information or a slide, don't hesitate to ask a question in chat too. That way, if you start to forget it as we get through the program, you can have it ready to go at the end if I miss it along the way. So maybe most people know what a charrette is, but we thought it was kind of an interesting way to approach this because, as you can see here, basically a charrette is an opportunity to provide a collaborative approach for planning and design in particular. And actually the word charrette kind of has an interesting background. It means cart in French, and back in the day of the Beaux-Arts school, etc., people, students in particular, would be working on their projects very late in studio, collaborating, discussing, debating back and forth, and a cart would come through to pick up their projects, to take them to their final jury position so that they could present their case, etc. But prior to that time, they were again working on the project, debating, deliberating with their fellow planners and designers, and kind of working along the way as the carts went through the street. So it kind of has this connotation of working until the very end in a collaborative manner. So we thought that was kind of interesting. So as I said, we'll go through some kind of demographic background for the town, make sure everybody's caught up with regard to that, and then we'll get into some more specific land use and planning issues. As you can see here, town of Hideout, we're technically a city, I guess. Now we've crossed that threshold, but we're at about a population of 1,100 people. You can see that the projected population based upon the state demographer is pretty significant, from about 1,000-ish now to about 3,000 in 2040. So I'm sure all of you are seeing a fair amount of construction, and you recognize the change that's taking place in some of your neighborhoods. You know, that will continue for a while. There is a significant amount of growth planned for the community, which is something that we want to make sure that we address. You can also see there on the left-hand side a population pyramid. In a perfect world, it is roughly a pyramid. Fewer older people at the top and a lot more younger people at the bottom. Probably a number of people think that we're a little bit top heavy, but actually, if you look at it with our Deer Mountain community, with some of our smaller single family units that are maybe going in, and some of our twins, you can start to see that we do have a number of younger folks in the community, which is nice to give us some balance. So it's just an indicator of what the population makeup is for the community. This map is probably a little bit hard to read. You can certainly zoom in on it on your Zoom screen if you want, but really it just shows certificates of occupancies that have been issued, as well as permits issued, as well as lots that are legal lots of record. So as you can see, we've got about 600 COs that have been issued. So those 600 combined with the plus or minus 250 units that were existing as part of Hideout's growth and annexation, Deer Mountain, we've got about 850 units on the ground. We are growing, of course. We've got more than 2,200 entitled, about 2,200 lots that are currently entitled for development, I think. And keep in mind that the town is about 2,500 acres to give you a sense of scale. I think Park City, just for sake of comparison, is about 9,700 acres, I think. So it kind of gives you a sense of scale. I think I got that right. Again, this one you may want to zoom in on it on your screen. This is approved development to date. These are different subdivisions that have been approved with lots entitled. You can see everything there from kind of Lakeview and Shoreline on the left, go down that line through Hideout Canyon, some of the earlier approved subdivisions. I'm up on the west or the east side. On the right-hand side, you can see Golden Eagle, Soaring Hawk. Kind of gives you a sense of placement where things are in the community. Just for sake of comparison, the furthest north area up here is the Deer Springs subdivisions. As we think about planning, we think about this development. Our 2019 general plan is our comprehensive plan. It's kind of our guiding document. It's the document that we rely on when we look at as we looked at the new zoning ordinance that was implemented in 2020, as we worked on some parks, open space and trail planning that we'll kind of touch on a little bit later. And also as we look at, you know, planning into the future, what are some of our opportunities in terms of potential rezoning, et cetera. As you can see here on this slide, the general plan gives us a pretty solid vision statement: protect our outstanding views of recreational amenities, cultivate an inviting neighborhood atmosphere, ensure that our neighborhoods are also connected from, you know, a trail perspective, kind of a mixed use perspective. Can we walk to a cafe? Can we walk to a coffee shop? Things like that. And we'll discuss that a little bit later in this discussion, opportunities for commercial development. But things like that are strongly recommended and made up a significant component of the general plan and its vision statement. The general plan, just for the record, is online on the town's website, so you can certainly access it there. It's a pretty lengthy document, but if you wanted to read it, it certainly is there. And more relative to what we're doing, the general plan does cover more than just land use, but really relative to land use, which is really what we're trying to focus on tonight a little bit, is what are the land use goals? How do we ensure that our future planning efforts and development adhere to those goals? Protecting, again, our view sheds, our green space, our topography, and ensuring that we have a bit of an authenticity about us, not only within the community, different neighborhoods, but certainly within the region. As we think about planning and development, also, we have to think about who our partners are going forward. So certainly we've got the town of Hideout, but you can see there's a number of entities when we think about both local planning and as we think about regional planning, there's a number of entities that, we want to work with, collaborate with, and, inform them and allow them to inform us. A number of them are noted on here, probably no surprise to anybody, but as we continue to grow, as we become a more recognizable community within the Wasatch Back region, these entities will be an important part of our future growth and opportunity. I noted that after the 2019 general plan, there was a real desire to focus on trail connectivity, parks, open space, recreational amenities, view sheds, those kinds of things. And so in 2020, the community launched into a post plan, Parks, Open Space, and Trail Plan. And so it took into account the 3 guiding documents outlined on the left there from the general plan, took that into account and built a recommendation for the kind of the specificity that would guide trail and park planning into the future. You can see here the number of areas that parks, open space, trails, and recreation planning really touch within the community, everything from an economic component to an environmental component to public facilities, et cetera. And so parks, open space, trails seem to be very recreational oriented. They are, but they can also be commuter focused and they can tie into these other areas. And that was taken into account in that document. Again, one of the guiding components for the post plan was information that was gleaned during the 2019 general planning process. And you can see here on the left-hand side, the question posed to the community is, what do you dislike about Hideout? And you can see there text that is in a larger font, a larger point size, represents input that was received by the greater number of people. And certainly you can see that a number of people have discussed lack of trails, concerned about growth, concerned about noise on 248, construction, et cetera. But certainly lack of trails was one of the highest ranked concerns or dislikes about the community. The one on the right, same concept applies. The larger the font, the point, I should say, represents what people would like to see changed in Hideout. And there you can see access to the lake, slow the development, more trails. And so the Parks, Open Space, and Trails plan was kind of built off of this input where the community really wanted to focus in this area. I'll go through these pretty quickly. The post plan identified 7 priorities. And number 1 is ensuring development compliance with approved subdivision trail planning. So you probably noticed throughout the community, there may be trails that dead end or trails that aren't yet done, trails that seem maybe disconnected. And we are working with the developers to ensure that trails that were agreed upon in the subdivision planning process are built. Priority 2, where it was a low-hanging fruit back in 2020, 2021, and that was finalizing the trail in Deer Springs, which I think is done, and then working on I think we call it the dog walk trail in Rustler, over in Rustler. That one's not yet done. We're still working through that, looking at where exactly that might go, but priority 3 starts to build into what I touched on in the earlier slide, and that is this kind of regional collaborative approach. And this would be building a spine along State Road 248 so that we could start to connect, Park City Heights down in the Park City area all the way over to Camas. A number of cyclists use 248 as a cycling road. And if we could get a separated path along there that would accommodate pedestrians, that would accommodate runners, that would accommodate cyclists, that would be a goal to connect, again, PC Heights to Camas. We're right in the middle. That would be an ideal opportunity to provide additional recreation and commuter connectivity. Other priorities included purchasing land so that we could create a park, connecting to the Jordan L. State Park. We've had conversations as recently as today with regard to those opportunities to start to cross over into the park, how that can be done, connecting the last mile, those trails that may not be part of a particular subdivision, but they're just kind of out there in almost no man's land, making sure those get connected to a right-of-way or another trail. And then looking at conservation easements to protect that open space land that is so important to the community residents. Those really outlined the 7 priorities for the post plan, and those are efforts. We are engaging in efforts to ensure that those are met. So back in June, I think it was June or July, I think it was June, the community put out a survey regarding land use and planning issues. And so it is available on the town's website, so you can certainly access it there. But we thought it would be helpful to make sure that everybody saw what that input provided. It was an impressive return in terms of numbers. More than 300 people provided a response. So thank you to those of you that took the time. This is simply asking if the respondents were part-time, full-time residents. As you can see, about 50% were full-time residents. We asked if they owned their home or rented. Not surprising in Hideout, most people own their home. We then asked about one of the recommendations in the general plan, and that is that the 2019 general plan recommends that we create kind of a town center for the community or opportunities for commercial development, neighborhood commercial development. We hear it often that we don't have enough. The reality is we don't have any in the community. And so not enough is maybe an understatement for those who believe that commercial development is important. And so what this was really asking, do you still agree that some commercial development is needed and desired in the community? And as you can see, about 70% noted that they would like to see additional commercial development prioritized. There were some it depends, and a small percent noted residential, but with so much residential being built, there was a general focus on the need for commercial or mixed use development. The next question dealt with a project that was being discussed at the time, and that was the Boulders project, which was that 112 acres on the kind of where 248 kind of bends from going east-west to north-south, up in that area on the east/north side of SR 248. And the question was that was posed to the community that was being requested by the developer applicant was whether to build in accordance with the zoning that was there or to start to look at new opportunities for a more mixed use development. And so based on the existing zoning that was there, they could build 85 lots, an acre each. It's mountain residential zoned, I should say. The development that was proposed had a hotel, additional residential units, different kinds of residential units, townhouses, quadplexes, casitas, just a real variety of housing units. And it was more dense. And so the question posed to the community is, do you think that it is worth, considering looking at different zoning for that area for a project of this sort? The answer was, at the time, the answer was that majority of people almost half felt that we should stick with the zoning that's there and not go with additional density. Again, there were some that didn't have enough information to answer the question. You can certainly see that. But it helped give us an understanding of where the community's head was in terms of density and development. But then we asked it a slightly different way in terms of town finances and fiscal responsibility and fiscal accountability in town hall, because commercial development certainly provides additional fiscal benefits to a community: sales tax revenue, maybe transient room tax revenue, hotel revenue, or hotel tax revenue, et cetera. And so when asked if they would support that kind of mixed use development with additional density in a commercial component, or consider a potential increase in property taxes to make up potential future shortfalls. We're not there yet, but as we get residential development, that will be something that we'll want to pay attention to, is ensuring that we are fiscally responsible and accountable. So when we asked it that way, it was a smaller percentage that actually supported the lower density development. You can see that the mixed use development got a little bit more of there was a little bit more impact behind that one. So it just helped us understand where the community was in terms of revenues and development. There's a few additional slides here that represent the survey input. This is with regard to nightly rentals. Nightly rentals are really kind of those short-term rental units. Do you support them? Right now, these are not permitted or allowed by the HOA, the master HOA. So a majority of the community does not allow nightly rentals, but there could be an opportunity in areas outside the master HOA. And so this was, would you allow this throughout the town? Again, it probably wouldn't be within the master HOA unless they allowed it, because an HOA can be more restrictive than the community, but not less. So you could see here that a majority of folks, about 2/3, said they did not support additional nightly rentals. We were, I don't think the town was surprised by that. Nightly rentals can be hard to, they can be hard to manage at times, but maybe if they were in select areas, maybe that response would be different. We don't know, but it's something that we could look into in the future. This one was, please rank your priorities for things you believe the town most needs. As you can see here, generally, most of these inputs were well received by the community, but cafes, restaurants, small bodegas, or small grocery stores really took kind of took the lead here in terms of what people wanted. But there was really nothing that was not generally supported. And maybe the upscale hotel fell a little behind, but trail connectivity, bodegas, cafes, community gardens, some commercial development was generally pretty well supported by the community. Trail connections, how important is it to ensure the connections between Wasatch and Summit? Almost 60% said very important. Another 30+% said somewhat important. A very small percent said not important. So again, trails, outdoor connectivity, recreation, very important to the community. I think this was the last question. This is a question about a bond issue in terms of potential acquisition of maybe property for a park or a central area to gather. Would you support a $10 million bond for this? It noted the estimated cost based on a $1 million assessed value, a taxable value, I should say, about $950 a year. You can see that less than 40% supported the bond at this time. 60% said no, give or take. So a bond was not something that the community was ready for just yet. I think I've got just one or two more slides and then we'll open this up for questions, but kind of based on that input. So we've got the general plan, we've got the parks, open space and trails plan, and we've got the community input from the survey this summer. We want to start thinking about and planning for the future. And this is a map of the town. And really, as we noted at the beginning of this presentation, much of the land in the town has already been entitled. It's been subdivided and entitled, not necessarily built on, but entitled. You can see here, the area in blue at the bottom right, that was the area that included the boulders. That was an application, again, that was presented to the Planning Commission and the Town Council this summer. It actually, there was a lack of agreement by the buyer and the seller, and actually it was pulled from any further discussion with Planning Commission or Town Council, but that was generally in this area. This is an area that has not yet been entitled. And there's a little bit of land to the east over here that also hasn't been entitled. Beyond that, much of the land has been entitled. There are two areas within the community that are town-owned land. This little piece up here, it's about 9.5, I think, acres, call it 10. That's owned by the town that was deeded by the developer for Deer Springs. There's some opportunities there to start to look at maybe mixed-use commercial, maybe recreational commercial as you go down Ross Creek Road into the Jordanelle. The other piece is a small triangle piece off of 248 kind of on the north side, a little bit to the north of the Claim development, if you're familiar with that. Really, these three areas represent some of our most, probably our lowest hanging fruit opportunities, for lack of a better way of saying that, to look at maybe mixed use or commercial development. And so, moving forward this summer, we hope to have additional charrettes and input discussed with the Planning Commission and the Town Council. But really, these are the three areas that we're kind of looking at into the future. And any input from you all, are we going in the right direction? Thoughts with regard to our general plan, the Parks Open Space Trail Plan, where we're headed, would be very helpful to us. Again, this isn't your last chance. This is us trying to be very transparent, open it up, convey it to you, and simply get your input. Jan, what did I miss? I'm sure I missed something.
Let's just talk about long-term sustainability and, the financial aspects of a growing town and city. Not unlike other young towns, the majority of our revenue and expense is from building permits. And this is typical. And then as the population mass gets bigger, we need to start thinking about commercial, because that building permit revenue and expense is one-time money. So a typical mature city would normally have 4 times sales tax as it does property tax. And I know, it's easy to think that property tax is contributing to running the city, but I just want to share some details. This is a property tax notice I just happened to have, and on a $6,200 tax bill, 400 of that comes to the town. So that's something that people don't really have in mind. When you pay your taxes, you think, oh, it's going to the city, but really it goes for, police, county type run things. So really it's sales tax that we need to start focusing on as a longer term strategy for financial health of the city, and so that we don't need to continue to increase your property taxes. So right now we have like approximately 1.6 million in the budget, and about 268,000 of that comes from property taxes. So then we have about the same amount coming from sales tax. Sales tax is broken down into 2 components. One is point of sale. That would be sales occurring in town. And then the other 50% is a pro rata portion of the state sales tax.
And I think the sales tax, the portion from in town would basically be Amazon online retailing sales, right? Because we don't have commercial establishments, right?
Right. We don't have the brick and mortar establishments. So the most potent form of revenue is destination development. So to the extent we can attract people to our area, potentially to ride bikes around the lake, or just attract people to the town, spend their money and leave. That's ideal. And of course we have Park City, which is a destination, and that's predominantly tourism. To the extent we can attract those kinds of dollars, that's the most potent. We get money from transient room tax, for hotels, for nightly rentals. And this is what we need to start thinking about. Of course, it would be wonderful to put everything into conservation, but somehow the numbers have to line up. That the property we buy, the town would have to buy it, and then they would need to increase taxes to support the town functioning as we mature and we don't have available to us building permits. So anyway, this is kind of a get your ideas together on how much of a destination should we try to be? Do we want to look at this commercial possibility? We have the boulders that is available for 113 acres. Do we want to do an attraction on the acres? Do we want to do public structure? Do we want to do a park? Anyway, just get your thoughts going on what potentially would be beneficial for residents, both from the financial and the quality of life issues.
It's a nice tie-in, actually, that maybe the fiscal accountability, responsibility perspective of the community, looking at commercial sales tax, et cetera. It ties in actually pretty nicely with what we've heard in some recent planning proposals, as well as what we heard at the general plan level. Again, it was that we do want some commercial, kind of mixed into the community, to be able to walk to an amenity, to a restaurant, something of the sort, I think has generally been supported by the community. And so maybe there is actually a nice link there between fiscal desires and land use desires. So maybe this is an opportunity to, simply, we're wide open for input. If anybody has a question, certainly feel free. You can raise your hand by using the little icon on Zoom, or you can, if you're calling in, oh no, I always forget. What are the numbers you press, Alicia?
*9.
*9, okay.
Mhm.
To unmute and join.
*9 to raise your hand, and then *6 will unmute you once we give you
There
the
you go.
access to
Okay.
unmute. Yeah.
It looked like somebody had raised their hand. Hang on. Looks like Susan. Do you see her, Alicia? Can you get her in?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, great.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
There was a plan at one point, and in fact, I think there was even a brochure on it for above City Hall. There was going to be some housing, and there was also going to be a restaurant and an athletic center, I presume, on that foundation that's been sitting there forever. Is there any update on what's happening there?
Jan, do you have any update? I think that was called the Perch Project initially, and now it's called the Settlement. Am I right, Jan?
That's correct.
Okay.
That actually has not been recorded with the county, last I heard, and I know it's for sale. We've talked to a lot of different people. So far, nothing has materialized that has stuck. So we understand that it was a high density plan and it had some community space, but nothing has proceeded to that point, obviously, and it's for sale.
Yeah, my understanding is it's for sale, and it does have some density and commercial components associated with it. That's correct. Yeah.
Let me ask another question, and then I'll be quiet. This is sort of a little bit off the point, but do you have any news on control of the pond and what's happening there, and trying to improve that situation for the people that live around the pond and are looking at the pond by the golf course?
Jan, I don't have any information specifically on that. Do you have any?
We amended our code so that we could charge nuisance violations, and I believe we have put something in effect to that, consistent with nuisance violations.
But yet it doesn't seem to be having any major effect.
Yeah, I wish we were able to work collaboratively with the golf course, and we'll put that on the to-do list. Certainly willing to collaborate. I think it would be a lovely public-private enterprise. But, you know, let's focus on what we can change and, you know, the opportunities we do have.
Any other questions, Susan?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Alicia, I know Carol Tomas had her hand up, but maybe not now. I'm trying to read them in order and it's a little bit hard. But Carol, did you have a question or input? Oh, there's her hand.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Carol. Yep.
Hey, okay, so I'm gonna say that I'm happy that the Boulders project did not go all the way through because it was primarily residential, and I get it that we need more commercial space, but I think that would be a great place for something, an attraction type place. It's sort of off the highway. It would not be a distraction from people who live in the area, but maybe there could be like a skateboard park or a sledding park or something built there that would be an attraction for people to come to Hideout, that they could pay for winter or summer activities, and perhaps a hotel. I think something along those lines. I see that property is for sale, and I'm not really sure that a developer would want to go that route. But I definitely think that would be a great place for the attraction idea. I also think that, I don't know who you can attract for retailers, but if we could get someone like Trader Joe's to come into the area, I guarantee you that people from Park City would come and spend their tax dollars and Hideout.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if they're up for that, but Camus, Heber, Park City, Trader Joe's, they could be someone to contact as a commercial source of revenue.
Well, you bring up a good point. That was actually, I think that was actually specifically brought up during some of the planning commission meeting, during some of the planning commission meetings or the town council meetings with regard to the boulders. You know, at the time, the developer noted that the number of rooftops, the demographics of the area, kind of the circle that we would draw around this area to get a Trader Joe's would probably be tough at this point, but certainly a smaller grocery store, you know, that could at least provide some basics. You know, a number of communities in the Wasatch Back often look down at what is it, Harmon's, the Emigration Market down at, I think, 15th and 15th in Salt Lake. That kind of concept maybe is more viable until there are more rooftops. But yeah, I think that we have heard loudly and clearly that a grocery store, a bodega, some sort of an opportunity to just get some of the basics even would be beneficial. And I also think that you kind of touched on it, but maybe getting the bigger box developments, that's probably out of the question, right? But some of those smaller local, maybe locally owned, locally run restaurants, cafes, I think that there's some opportunity there that they could become destination features. And so I think it's worth looking at. I do have a question for you. When you think about an attraction like a skateboard park or something on that property, you mentioned a hotel. Are you also supportive of other kinds of residential, other kinds of commercial, such as restaurant, general, mixed use, neighborhood commercial? Is that something you're supportive of in that area?
Within that Boulders development?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think that would be a great place to sort of park the commercial development.
Okay.
Make it, I know it's 100 and some odd acres, and I know there's a big house there,
mm-hmm.
But that would be a good place to put commercial development.
Okay.
Sort of off the highway, no one has to see it. It's not like at Richardson Flats where it's going to be a big parking lot, but something over there might entice a developer to come that way.
Okay, that's helpful.
It's a suggestion.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So when the boulders was being evaluated, we talked about a music amphitheater, and there was a suggestion that we make the amphitheater bigger. Is this something that we should, I mean, we could reach out and see, if it's feasible, first of all, without creating a sound nuisance, but one possibility is to create a beautiful venue that is attractive to the entire region. Is that something that, like, the town may think is compatible with future use?
Yeah.
Carol, does that kind of tie into your thinking then? Well, and then maybe we'll go to Andrea, because I think that Alicia has to unmute you all. Sorry about that.
Actually, I think that is a great idea. They have all those concerts at Deer Valley and Red Butte. And if you could find some use for that same venue in the winter time, would pay off as well.
That's right.
And
Expand
maybe put a sledding something in there as well, where people could come sled, or that tube, those kind of tubing parks, where you could just have, I don't know.
Yeah.
Far-fetched, but
No,
good
that's-
idea.
No, thank you. Andrea, I think you had your hand up next. I'm trying to go in order, folks.
Yeah, hi. I just had a quick question about when we enter Hideout from 248, there's not a turning lane when we come in. And so it's hard to turn when people are going fast and they're right on your tail behind you. I just didn't know if there was any plans to kind of put a turning lane in there.
So is this entering Hideout from Park City down at kind of the Deer Springs area down in
Yeah,
that area?
exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And just if there's any plans, to make a turning lane to come in, and then maybe if there's any plans, I didn't know if there's any plans to put a pretty gate in there or a sign or just something, because it's hard to give people directions how to get here. You can so easily just breeze by that
Miss that
entranceway
turn.
there, and there's no
Yep.
turning lane. It's just kind of a hard entranceway,
So working with the turning lane, we'll have to work with UDOT. We do have a corridor agreement with UDOT, and it does incorporate potential signalization at a couple of intersections within Hideout when and if the need arises, depending on future traffic loads on 248. I think with that plan in place, we may start to look at an additional turning at an opportunity for a turning lane there. There could also be signalization. Same thing could happen up at the at Hideout Canyon at where the town hall is, up in that area. It's noted in the plan that it could be signalized. So I think with that could come changes and maybe turning lanes, to answer your question. But none of that is set in stone, and that SR 248 is a UDOT road. They have full authority on
What
that.
else could they put up there at the boulders?
I'm sorry. Maybe that was somebody else. Sorry, Andrea.
Yeah,
and
that
then
wasn't me.
And to your second question, I think you were asking about maybe signage or something in that area.
Yeah,
We
just
do
kind of
have,
beautifying the entranceway up there.
We are looking at some potential new signage opportunities, specifically down at on the north end near Deer Springs, but also at the other end of 248 over near kind of the Golden Eagle Access Road over in that area, maybe a sign as well. So we've got a couple of prototype opportunities, a couple of prototype signs that could be real opportunities. We have to look at funding, maybe public-private partnership, working with developers, et cetera. But we also concur that new signage would be ideal in those areas.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You might remember that Nate Brockbank agreed to pay for signage in the town. So I think we have a number of things going on. We don't actually want to put the sign in until there's some road work UDOT is going to do at the Ross Creek entrance. So that's slated for the near future, I understand. But we've also been involved in the transportation plan, UDOT's transportation plan, which they update every few years. And Carol Hazelton on our council is heading the transportation committee. And we have been very active in that, getting our needs on UDOT's long range plan. We've been talking to Park City about potentially some microtransit. We've been talking to the county. So we're doing this, as we develop the town and the future land use. So we're having those conversations. And UDOT just, UDOT decides to do things on their own schedule. So
We have
it's
to
not like
collaborate
we-
and partner as best we can with them.
Yes.
But we're there.
yes.
Okay,
We're trying.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think next up, it looks like Michelle Parker.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi there.
Thanks. So I'm a resident, or a future resident of the Golden Eagle development. And I just wanted to raise a couple of points. I would ask that the town considers the Golden Eagle residents and their opinions on what that land should be developed as a priority over maybe people who live in other areas, just given the proximity. And as a future resident there, I'm very familiar with the topography, and nearly every home in Golden Eagle will have views of that area, the area of the boulders. And so the main concerns that we have are sound transmission up the mountain. So the amphitheater is significantly concerning in that regard. And then the suggestion of the skate park as well. Where I live currently, they built a skate park in our downtown area, and it is extremely noisy, and it brings a lot of, I don't know, not to be stereotypical, but rough teenagers to the area who kind of have a lack of regard for loitering and that sort of thing. And then the last thing that I'll say about that is that everybody who purchased lots in Golden Eagle purchased them with the understanding that that was residentially zoned. So to rezone that could potentially lead the residents of Golden Eagle to pursue possible lawsuits if whatever is placed in that area lowers the value of those lots. And every lot in Golden Eagle was purchased at a premium price per acre. So I think that's a real significant possibility of the Golden Eagle residents to be opposed to any sort of development that would impede sound or peacefulness to the community.
No, thanks for that. I know that a number of residents up in the Golden Eagle area came out and provided somewhat similar input, and certainly that is valid. And I know that the Planning Commission and the Town Council is taking all of that into consideration and will in the future. But that's very helpful. Yeah, I do think that ensuring whatever ends up happening in that area, ensuring that there are buffers, et cetera, will be important. And I think that you're right. I think that it's important for everybody in the town to really pay attention to what could be built there and what should be built there, right? So yeah, that's very helpful input. Thanks.
Can I ask also what the fascination with the amphitheater is, as that was never mentioned in any of the surveys? It just seems to be brought up over and over again. And I don't understand how that kind of ties in with the post project as open space. It's sound pollution, it's light pollution, it's kind of against why people move to Hideout, which is literally to hide out from the noise and the bustle of the city. So I just feel like it's against why people move to Hideout and why people pay a premium to live in Hideout.
No, that's good feedback. I think it was just something that was discussed during the Boulders project. Some other people have brought it up. And so I think it's just one of the ideas that is being thrown out here in terms of opportunities for commercial, maybe, local restaurants and the amphitheater was one, a hotel, starting to just look at different opportunities as we think about commercial and or even destination commercial to Jan's point earlier. I think it's just an idea. People have thrown it out. And so we're just discussing it. This is a wide open forum.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, we don't have any zoning commercial in the town. So, I mean, this is going to be, you know, revolutionary for that change. So we want to make sure we get everyone's voice heard, but it will be, you know, we'll need to put commercial in the town at some place, or we will, you know, need to figure out another way to fund the ongoing operation of the town.
Can I
by raising
ask,
taxes.
can I also ask, I know you mentioned that like your example of a property tax bill and what portion of that is allocated to the town and the rest of those property taxes goes towards paying police officers, et cetera. Is there information on where that money actually is allocated? That percentage you mentioned going to
Sure.
the town? Is that paying salaries? Like what is that money actually going for and why do we need more of it?
Yeah, first of all, if you refer to your Wasatch County tax notice, you can see how your tax bill is allocated. But then, of course, we have the town's budget. And this is something that we review every year and propose. And you're welcome to even join the budget committee. We have residents on our budget committee. And if you'd like to be involved, please reach out to me. But right now, we have a significant amount of building and we don't make money on building permits because we spend money that comes in. So, you know, our jobs kind of change over the life of the town and we're all very much, you know, involved in the building process. And then as the town matures, we get involved in, you know, different areas. So, yeah, we're just looking forward, looking ahead and trying to put something in proactively so that we have the most quality of life we can get and we don't end up as some young towns like just doing a huge tax increase as the building dies off.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Michelle.
you.
Yeah, thank you. I think Glenn Cutler has his hand up next. I hope I'm going in the right order.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hi there.
Hi. I first like to say thank you very much. I think the transparency is incredibly important. I am a landowner in Golden Eagle, so I'm not local. And I really appreciate the opportunity to participate and to hear and your willingness to hear from us. So thank you very much for that. My first question is, in this map, it looks like the only place for commercial development is right under Golden Eagle. Is that true? Is there no other place in the town?
No, there are a couple of others. If you look at the top of that, there are a couple of areas in red that are town-owned opportunities. We think those are really significant opportunities as well to look at neighborhood mixed use or some maybe small scale commercial. So we do have other areas. The area outlined in blue is just simply noting that it's unentitled, undeveloped land. But there are a couple of areas up north, and there may be additional opportunities within the master HOA. We don't know specifically where and when that might happen, but this is just kind of outlining some of those 3 of the areas that are really low-hanging fruit: unentitled, undeveloped, and they offer potential for that kind of commercial neighborhood, commercial development.
Okay, so really, other than the red and the blue areas, there every other piece of the town is owned and plotted, and then am I understanding that correctly?
Generally, every other area of the town is owned and plotted as lots entitled. There are some additional areas within the master HOA that have not yet been platted and entitled. So there's some opportunities there. We don't know where that might happen, but that could happen in there. That's a very large area. And so we can't identify exactly where it could happen, but some opportunities there as well. But yeah, this map does really point out that outside of that, it's somewhat limited. Again, you don't see all of the development on the ground yet, but it's likely that it's entitled by way of a subdivision.
Okay. My next question just went out of my head. Yeah, I guess I would like to, second a lot of things Michelle said about, our expectations and what we, are led to believe when we bought in, and that the idea of, some of the ideas that have been circulated about that land are very concerning. Can you just clarify the status of the boulders? Is that project on hold? You said it's been withdrawn?
It's been withdrawn. It's our understanding, Jan may have additional information, but as I understand it, the buyer and the seller did not come to an agreement with regard to an extension. And so my understanding is it's that they're no longer under contract.
Okay, thank you. And
Jan, is that your understanding?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
okay, and so the timeline of a potential development is something beyond your control. It's up to the landowner.
That's right. It's unknown at this point. We don't have any applications in for it. Again, this is probably the ideal time to really bring it to the community, because it's wide open. There's not an application for that property, nor for the town-owned properties to the north. So that's why we're simply opening it up and getting input at this point.
And what is the process for changing the current zoning for that area?
We would have to a rezone application would have to be submitted. It would be presented to the Planning Commission. We would have to ensure that any proposed rezoning is in compliance with the general plan. If it was not in compliance with the general plan, we'd have to open up the general plan to make sure that it supported a rezoning. Assuming it does, it would go to the Planning Commission. They would review it, make recommendations, and that would then go to the town council for review and approval or denial. So it would go through a pretty rigorous public process.
And those public processes have public hearings, so residents are allowed to join in those conversations.
Okay, but there would be no referendum or any direct input from the town residents, other than letting the council know how they feel about it?
You could show up to the meetings, to the Planning Commission meetings, to the council meetings. They would be open hearings for residents.
Okay. Is there if we wanted to, if we had further thoughts and wanted to give you input, is there how do we do that? Is there an email address, or what's the?
There is, Alicia. I think we have an information email on the website. Am I right about that? Is that the easiest way to reach out to us?
Yeah, if you just want to email hideoututah@hideoututah.gov, then that's kind of the generic email inbox. Sorry, my dogs are in the background. The generic email inbox that will that all of us check, and the council checks and everything too. So we'll get them forwarded to the appropriate person.
Okay, thanks. And I guess my last question is, will the charts that you showed today be available?
Yes, we'll put this we'll put this on the website, I presume. Is that right, Alicia? If we haven't already, we will.
Yeah, it's already up on the website. If you go to the Hideout website and then under meetings and agendas, if you click on either planning charrette, the same slideshow is there under meeting materials.
Okay, I've probably taken up too much time. Thank you.
No, thank you. Alicia, I think it's Robert Green is next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So my understanding is that the red areas, the 10 acre, the 7 acre is currently owned by the town now. And obviously the blue area, privately owned, that's where the boulders was going. That's correct, right?
That's correct. And actually that blue area, just to be clear, there's a little bit of land, maybe
Okay.
50-ish acres on the right side that are also unentitled, undeveloped, but it wasn't part of the boulders project.
Okay, so is there any reason that we couldn't move forward with some commercial development in the red areas while what happens with the blue areas takes longer? So for example, we could decide that in the 10 acres by the Jordanelle, do some type of recreation thing there, bike rentals, kayak rentals, a small market, maybe a sporting goods store for people doing recreation on the Jordanelle. And then in the 7 acres by claim, coffee shop, gas station, smaller stuff could we just
No,
decide as a town?
that's exactly what we're thinking. It's not that this
Okay.
has to be sequential one way or the other, either the blue land or
Okay.
the red land. It can all be looked at holistically or piece by piece. I tend to think that you're on the right path, that some of the smaller opportunities on the town-owned land are probably early phase opportunities. I think what we do have to do is, kind of based on this input, is if the public's generally supportive, we would have to take it forward. We would have to rezone that land. That land is not zoned for commercial
Okay.
right now. So that's why we're getting input.
And that I would imagine, be less problematic than the 170 acres where the boulders was going to be, which is, as we know, was controversial, is controversial, will continue to be controversial. I think that we could make a lot more progress in the red areas and get some stuff done and some commercial stuff built while we all figure out what happens with the larger plot of land, right? So they're not mutually exclusive, right?
No, not at all. They're independent, actually. Yeah,
Great.
that's right. Yeah,
So-
good point. Thank you.
One concern is that the commercial development has to, somebody has to want to put a restaurant there.
Right.
So we can't really control whether it's red before the blue. And we happen to have a developer approach us on the Boulders project, which is why we proceeded through that plan. So I think if we had somebody come in on the red property and propose something, that would be a good start.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Brett, you're up. Hi there.
Hello.
Hi,
Thank you. Appreciate that. Good input from everybody. I definitely appreciate that. I'm a full-time resident of Hideout. And, I appreciate you holding these meetings. I definitely echo the sentiments about it. It really is who approaches with the opportunities. Those are the really hard things to attract sometimes. And I by no means wish to, I'd love a Trader Joe's or whatever just as much as everybody, but the numbers will never pan out. Trader Joe's is private. They look for, based on some other information where they've turned down stores, population of 159,000 within 5 miles. So unfortunately, I've had to throw Trader Joe's out of my mind. They're not going to come here. We'd all love it, but we got to be real too. I mean, they're not, nor is many small markets. It's just, it doesn't pencil out from an economics on that. I'm not sure, I definitely appreciate, the amphitheater aspect and the noise and the folks up in Golden Eagle. Unfortunately, developers lie. We were lied to, misled as to how quickly Tuhey would develop over the ridge, where we've had an unobstructed view of nothing but nice greenery, and now we've got roads cut in there all over the place. And people told us, so it's going to be 20 years before it'll pencil out to bring gas lines and water lines out to there. And here we are 5 years later and they're doing it. So unfortunately, we can never guarantee, what another owner, landowner, or developer is going to do with land that's there. But I certainly am conscientious about that as well, for those up there. I'm not sure if any type of senior living would work in the Boulder site. Certainly it's not loud. If there's a tax base associated with that, I'm not sure from a sales tax or some other tax base, but that's relatively quiet, relatively low volume of traffic. Be a gorgeous area. If I would love to have my parents there when they're at that stage of their life. Gorgeous to look out there. And maybe that could be accompanied by some other, amenities, small amenities of restaurants or that kind of thing. A destination restaurant would really be another thing too, because the challenge with that property, as the Boulders proposed developers were talking about, is the infrastructure getting anything up there. It's just incredibly costly to get infrastructure up on that hillside for beyond what's built there now. And so it's going to have to be something that works out economically to be there. I'd love to see the town, and maybe the town is already working with others to really promote the economic development of the area. I think is it where North Sightline joins 248 on the entrance to the park, where the town owns the land around there. There's not a huge space, but easily accessible, already has turn lanes. So we don't have some of the UDOT exactly right there where you're circling. It's not huge, but it could be very nice. There is the other area just north of Claim. I mean, I think, has the town been promoting that with commercial developers, which is incredibly hard to do from what we hear unofficially about the market up at the Browns Canyon area, 248, is they can't find anybody to build the building. The grocery store is ready to go there, but no contractor will build the building.
That's right. They've got, I think there is a proposal for a grocery store up there, a decent sized grocery store, as I understand it, but you're right. Yet maybe, I don't know if the issue is labor or if the issue is the potential grocery stores holding because they're waiting for more, rooftops follow retail, as we say, right? And so they may be waiting for more rooftops. We're not exactly sure, right?
Well, the unofficial discussions are the grocery store is ready to be there, but they can't get a contractor to build the building.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Is the rumor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
All the contractors are too busy doing either the MITA project over in Mayflower or doing residential, which is just way more profitable to do.
So yeah, if that is the case, we'll have to maybe wait for a slowdown for them to find the force to do it. But you're right on the town-owned land up at Ross Creek. It is when you come into the town off of 248 on either side of the road there, as you come in there, that is town-owned land. There could be some real opportunities for kind of destination restaurant, recreational, kind of neighborhood commercial. It's up near just at the south end of Bellevue Drive that leads into Deer Springs. So you're starting to get a bit of a population center up there. So we are looking at that. We haven't, Jan, jump in here. We haven't actively promoted that for commercial development. It's currently not zoned for commercial, which is why we thought we have to open these meetings up and, ensure that we have general buy-in or not, right? To help give us direction before we go to the planning commission and the town council. What we've generally heard in last meeting and this meeting, it sounds like so far anyway, people are generally supportive of the right kind of neighborhood commercial, destination commercial. So that's what we'll take forward and really start to kind of hone in on the details. So we have to get that right. We have to get that general direction right. And then we can start to look at opportunities to rezone.
Yeah,
because right now, marketable to a commercial developer, they'd have to go through the rezoning process.
Yeah. I know of somebody who's contemplating, a small business in this area of the greater Park City area, and they're finding it incredibly difficult to find relatively small commercial space, not office space. There's plenty of that at some very high rates, but affordable, 800 square foot, 1,000 square foot retail commercial space is very hard to come by.
Mm-hmm. And we think that kind of space is something we could offer a small community. It's not too impactful if it were to land here. So that sounds like actually a pretty good fit.
So Keith Marmer has been on the line for quite a while, and I know he has some some insights in economic development. Can we unmute?
Sure. Keith?
Hi, I'm sorry, it's his wife.
Oh, great.
Wrong
Okay.
person. Although, yeah, I'm using his computer and I know that he has been at some of the meetings. And my takeaway and my opinion for today is that it would be great to start working on that Ross Creek area. A gas station there would not only benefit our residents, but it would be the only gas station when you get off of the highway, if you are going into the Uintas. Otherwise, you have to wait all the way till you get to Camas. So I think there's a lot of transient people who would stop by for gas, and it would help us as well, in addition to a few more small retail spaces there. And then my second point was in the larger area. I liked two of the ideas that I've heard already, and one of them is a possible music venue as part of a hotel, maybe similar to what the DeJoria Center is, so that there can be some small concerts, but yet there's still a hotel and a restaurant, and that kind of keeps it a little bit quieter. And the senior living is also an excellent idea. My husband and I have a parent in senior living, and we looked to see if we could move her to Park City. She's in Salt Lake City, and Park City in general has very little senior living, so it would attract, I think, a lot of people, and it would be a beautiful place to live. So I really like that idea very much.
No, thanks for that. We've discussed internally the opportunities for that. We heard that even brought up during the Boulders project and even prior to that. But it's, to your point, it is interesting. Summit County in particular, Park City, Wasatch County less so, but the entire Wasatch back is really lacking in kind of that assisted living, step down housing opportunity. So it is something that we have looked at. We also think that's got some real opportunity.
That's all I have to say, but I just got a direct message that I can't answer to for my name. It's Vivian Gale.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's for the record for Alicia.
Yes, it is, but I couldn't answer the chat. It's disabled.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Sorry. How
Very
do you
much.
spell your last name, Vivian?
It's Gayol.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate the opportunity. So thank you guys very much.
No, thank you. I think iPhone 3 is next.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, thank you. I'm enjoying Hurricane Ian here in Florida. I'd rather be in Hideout. But I think that, as was mentioned before, the presence of the market that was proposed in Wasatch Springs would have a significant effect on the ability of Hideout to entice a small market to come there, because that area could support two markets. The other concern is it's nice to talk about some of these things, but as people who went to either of the Hideout concerts may have noticed, that parking is really something that is lacking in Hideout for any sort of a recreational venue in existing property. You can talk about an amphitheater somewhere, but if there's no place to park, people are not going to attend it. And the other issue, which I actually sent an email to the town about 3 weeks ago and have heard nothing back from anybody, is about pursuing some sort of possibly leased public transportation, whether it be just during ski season or year round, because the problem is, once again, even if we work with the existing transportation with Park City Transit or High Valley, there's nowhere for people to park relative to any bus lines except at Richardson Flats. So I think these are that the town needs to look into if we want to help resolve some of these problems.
We have talked to Park City Transit and they would be willing to work with us on a budget. We would put money in the budget for microtransit and have that available parking at Richardson Flats. But we also talked about this triangle piece in red. That could be an interesting transit stop for bus service and microtransit, and especially if we combined it with a walkway over 248.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, I think we need to do something in the form of increasing public transportation in the area.
Yeah, we agree. And if there's a way to, kind of tie in maybe a transit oriented approach to maybe land we own or in another area, we would love to do that. And to Jan's point, I know that she's been discussing this opportunity with various transportation entities for a while. So again, I think I'm guessing that it's gaining, the traction is gaining slowly because the population isn't quite there yet. But I suspect that within the next year or so, we'll have some real opportunities to negotiate for that.
Okay. And also, I think that as far as a turning lane in the Ross Creek area, that is just essential, which is going to have to happen way before there's a light there, because it's just life in your hands when you're, when you come to Hideout Canyon, you're going uphill. It's a little bit different than Ross Creek, where you're coming downhill and you're trying to make a right-hand turn at 65 miles an hour. Is pretty hairy there.
No, we appreciate that input, and we know it is our task to work with UDOT. Again, it can be challenging. They control the entire right of way, but it is something that we are working on.
Okay.
We did submit.
Be a part-time volunteer on the transportation committee if I could be of any help. And for Alicia's records, this is Larry Eisenfeld from Deerwater, not iPhone.
Did that help you? Did you get everything?
It kind of cut out there just for a second. Larry,
Eisenfeld.
thank you.
Yes, and thank you. We will reach out to you. We're looking for people on the transportation committee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Damien, I think you're up. I think we have one more, and we are going to try to be respectful of everybody's time.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great, thank you. Yeah, so Damien Titano, hopefully future resident of Golden Eagle. I think this is all great conversation. I appreciate it, but one thing that kind of how I would approach it is, what is the scale that we really are looking at? Because we talked about the budget being 1.6, and then having a tax base currently of like 2.5, or I don't know if there's any more. But in the future, obviously there's projected budgets, and let's just say that we round it up to $2 million for inflation. How much deficit are we out without building permits? Have we looked at that, Jan? And then if that is a number that we have, which hopefully we do have, let's say that it's $1 million, let's say it's $1.5 million, who knows? How much square footage per these uses? So a restaurant, how much tax base, how much tax revenue do you get out of a restaurant of 5,000 square feet? How much tax base do you get out of a revenue out of a gasoline or a grocery store? So I think instead of throwing these big picture ideas out, we really only need to solve our problem. So has it been analyzed more financially than it appears?
We are in the process of doing that, and we did some interesting studies when we had the Boulders development in consideration. We did all the financial analysis on that, and transient room tax is a great thing for a town. I mean, most people would kill to get a hotel in town. People come in, they spend their money, they leave, and they give you transient room tax. We can also get that with nightly rentals, but that has, other ramifications. So yes.
Is there any way to share that information? Because let's just take a gas station, because I agree with the people that are talking about gas stations, that I just filled up with gas as I was listening to this whole conversation, paid $100, and probably 25% of that is in taxes. So how much does that gas station actually get in tax revenue? Do we know that?
We do know what.
No? Am I out? Oh,
Are you still there?
yep.
Damien, I'd be happy to email you the financial evaluation that went along with Boulders, so you can take a look at, some of the answers to your questions. But as far as a gas station, I mean, there's nothing in particular that's very good for a town. In fact, it has, ramifications of oil in the soil, and I don't even know if we could be that close to the Jordanelle. So, I mean, we haven't done particular studies on a gas station, but we have done enough studies to know that hotel and short-term rentals are very profitable for the town.
Okay, so we don't quite yet understand the scale that would accomplish our deficit, is what I'm hearing.
That's correct. However, I just submit a grant application today for funding to do that very thing. So it's kind of in conjunction with these planning charrettes. It's let's get the financial patterning available to us, and let's create something sustainable financially as we're having these discussions with the community.
Okay, and since you did have the Boulders by chance, and you did have that hotel, do you happen to have it off the top of your head of what was the tax revenue from a annual basis on that hotel?
Yes.
What is that?
I'll send it to you. It was part of the public process. So it's a public document, and I'd be happy to send that to you.
Oh, you just don't happen to have the number off the top of your head? Sorry.
I don't.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Damien. Nelson, I think you are the last one standing.
All right. Thank you, sir. Nelson Fairber. I am also a landowner in Golden Eagle. I think generally what you'll hear from most of these landowners is they're interested in the existing zoning remaining the same, 85, 1 acre lots. I think there's also a need for the community to have those other kind of commercial aspects, retail in terms of restaurants and otherwise. So I don't think you get much pushback on that either. If you have 85 single family homes and you're throwing in some mixed use with some commercial that everybody in the community benefits from, I think generally that would be supported. What they don't want, I think I can speak on behalf of several people, is light pollution, noise pollution. The amphitheater also kind of perplexes me. That's the exact opposite why people move to Hideout. And I think you'll consistently hear that among those who live closest to that plot of land. So just kind of sharing that perspective. The second point, perhaps maybe more of a question, is related to schooling and education. I'll have kids that go through elementary school in the next few years, and I think my best opportunity to have them enroll in a school close by is perhaps through open enrollment. But I don't think Summit County, maybe you guys know more than I do, but is there any awareness on what opportunity exists for kids to go to school? I think Summit County is the closest school system. So if you guys have any awareness of that, certainly would be helpful for me.
Yes, we do. And I can email you separately on what we've discussed in the past with both Wasatch County and Summit County. Do you want to just shoot me your email?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Is it something that the town is perhaps leading on behalf of their constituents, or is it something that people are having to do on their own?
We've talked about sending a certain amount of revenue to Summit County, and then they would go to a school in Camas. That was a potential solution. you know, financially, it didn't really pan out because we didn't have that many residents that were interested. It was a discussion 3 years ago. So a lot of people utilize the public school system, but it is a problem. We know that it's a long ride for the children to go all the way around the lake, and it's a continual dialogue when I'm in regional collaboration type meetings that we need a school, you know, closer, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Thanks, Nelson. Well, you all, it's about 6:25. We kept you a little bit later than we intended. Really, thank you so much for joining us. We'll continue with these planning endeavors over the course of the next few months, and we'll try to get in front of the Planning Commission. I mean, really, I think that you guys have provided us some good input. I think you're generally, it sounds like generally supportive of where the 2019 general plan is making recommendations for some commercial, mixed use commercial. You certainly heard from Jan relative to the fiscal importance of it. But I think that most of you are kind of looking at it from a benefit to the community, a quality of life benefit. So we kind of want to make sure that those kind of go hand in glove. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to reach out. If you have questions, again, reach out to us. I think Alicia provided that input for the input email. It's also on the town website. You can go directly there and send us an email if you have a question. Jan, anything I missed before we go?
No, great job. Thanks, Thomas.
No, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us.